Okay.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening or good morning to all of you, depending on the time zone in which you live, because there are always people in this meeting from all over the world. I am Evelyn Sampatnath, an educator from Trinidad and Tobago, living in the United States for the past 35 years. This is the 155th edition of our Zoom public meeting. We wish to sincerely thank all of those who have contributed in whatever way to the success of this ongoing Pan-Indo-Caribbean and Pan-Indian Diaspora global project. For 154 unbroken continuous weeks, we have been here every single Sunday. In the past 3 years, 2 months, and 3 weeks, we have featured 629 presenters from all parts of the world speaking on 154 topics. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. And like today, we often partner with the Amina Ghafoor Institute for the study of indentureship and its legacies, led by Professor David Dabadine. Today's edition of our program is being supported by the Sports and Culture Fund of the Office of the Prime Minister of the Government of Trinidad and Tobago. During this month of May, we are celebrating Indian History and Heritage Month. In order to continue this weekly program and to make it better and bigger, we're asking you to kindly give us your suggestions as well as donations. Please contact Dr. Mahabir for details. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator this evening or tonight is Shalimar Mohammed, the co-director of the Zoom platform, who is a business teacher and researcher from Trinidad and Tobago. She obtained her master's degree in business psychology from Franklin University in the USA. Shalimar, welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Evan. Really nice to have you on. You've been a consistent supporter of the program, and it's lovely to have you chair with us. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I want to thank you for choosing to spend this part of your Sunday or your Monday morning with us. So this public meeting will take the usual form of a panel presentation with speakers presenting, followed by a Q&A. To avoid trolls invading our program, our IT manager, Ravin Ramsingh, has muted everyone. Speakers, you are advised not to admit anyone, not to unmute anyone, and please do not allow anyone to share your screen. Thank you. This virtual program should not exceed 2 hours. And today we are talking about historical indentureship sites and monuments in the Indian diaspora for the second time. And why are we doing this? So sites and monuments are educational and cultural resources, which by their very existence provide a deeper understanding of a shared history and heritage. Visitors can engage with structures that embody the lives of those who endured Indian indentureship. These symbols foster a sense of connection, empathy, and respect for our ancestors who had laid the foundation for the diverse communities that exist today. It is vital that we honor the past with monuments and historical sites, thereby preserving our cultural heritage and promoting intergenerational dialogue, which ultimately demonstrate the resilience of the spirit of the Indian diaspora. So we are going to hear from speakers from different territories in which there are sites and monuments. And we want to begin today with Suriname. Mr. Anil Manurat is a policy consultant. He's the chairman of the Culture Union of Suriname and the director of Sonal TV Channel 811, which uses technology and content to deliver the best in entertainment. Mr. Manurat, go ahead, please. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Namaste, salam, and good afternoon to all of you. We are from Suriname. I am from Suriname. And as you know, Suriname is a Dutch-speaking country, but I will do my best to do my presentation in English, and hope everyone will understand me. And as she told you, I'm the director of Sonal TV. Everyone here can go on www.sonaltv.com, and live you can follow us TV channel on the website, on your telephone, every place, just the promoting. So you can watch our programs also everywhere. Good evening to good afternoon to all of you, and good morning to all the people. I think it's time to start to you. So thank you for this opportunity today, to talk about the historical indentureship sites and monuments in Suriname. I will focus on the sites and monuments of our Hindustani ancestors, or where their influence was present. And I hope that you will understand that it's not able to mention all historical sites and monuments in Suriname in depth, because there are too many and it is not possible to talk all about 10 and 50 minutes. But the main one I have listed, so I'm going to share with you. I can share the screen now. Miss Shalima?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Je moet eerst je iPhone ontgrendelen.
Great,
Yes,
we can see it.
It's good so?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, historical sites and monuments in Suriname. I will start with this. As you know, Suriname has 10 districts: Brokopondo, Maravene, Saramaka, Nikeri, Komowene, Paracoronisi, Palvini, and the capital is Paramaribo. Hindustanis are living in most of these districts. So it's obvious that in those districts where the most Hindustanis are living, you can find sites and monuments there. In the one more than in the other, I have listed some of these sites and monuments and places and some pictures. They are not in practical order, but I will share with you some of the monuments that are very important in Suriname for our Hindustani community. The first one, this is Baba Mai. This is very popular. I think most of the people know this. This is when the Hindustani indentured laborers came to Suriname. They had to undergo a medical checkup, and the planters came to pick them up. The place where all this happened, it was called the Coolie Depot, which is established at the Kleine Waterstraat in Paramaribo. So since the Hindustanis set foot here, stayed in a particular time, this depot. This is a place, the most important one, and still is an important place. The building of the Coolie Depot is not there anymore. It's now a different area there, but it's still very important. It's a very important place, the Coolie Depot. The building of Coolie Depot is not there where the Baba Mai monument, this monument is placed, but it's there in the area where the Coolie Depot belongs. This monument was placed in 1993. 1993, it was placed. Baba Mai, which means father and mother. In fact, on our ancestors who came from to work on the plantations in Suriname, they bring mostly a lota to drink and a thali to eat. Not too much they bring with them, but they bring the many traditions and norms and values that they pass to the generation, to all the generations now. This statue was erected in commemoration of 120 years of Hindustani immigration in Suriname. And this year we are going to celebrate 150 years. So it's almost 30 years this monument is there. It was made by a late sculptor, Mr. Krishna Prasad Khedu, and the statue has been cost almost 2,500 kilos of solid aluminium. It's made by aluminium, solid aluminium, and this was done by Suralco, a previous bauxite company in Suriname. This site is a previous coolie depot, and this monument of Baba Mai are the center focus of every celebration of the arrival day of the Hindustanis in Suriname. So on 5 June, every year we are there to celebrate Immigration Day, Aparvasi Divas. Prominent people like the president and other delegations are putting first the mala flower garlands on the statue. In June and other important festivals in Suriname, is a very, very important place for our Hindustani brothers and sisters. I want to share this as a monument. If you can see, it's a Baba Mai monument in Calcutta, West Bengal, India. It's also to share that in the year of 2015, there was also a Baba Mai statue erected in India, Calcutta, and it was signs to the ancestors left India from there, the place where they took off with the ship Lala Rook first time. There they have put this Baba Mai monument. Also in Suriname, share some pictures. There are some Baba Mai statues. This is in district Nikeri. We have this Baba Mai statue there. This one is in Kommerwijne. In Kommerwijne, we have this statue. I'm going to share some other pictures with you. It's very important to show you all a side of all Suriname people at the Independence Square, which is used by all ethnic group of several festivals. The Cultural Union of Suriname, CUS, which has the chairman, which I am the chairman, we yearly organize different activities on this side. Some are the yearly summary of Hindustan immigration, the celebrating of Eid-ul-Fitr, Eid-ul-Fitr for the Muslim in Suriname, as you can see this on the picture, where they gather in the morning at the Independence Square to pray and scripture reading to the end the holy month of Ramadan. Further, during Diwali, we set up a big national diya. That is at Diwali time, we set up a national diya for everyone in Suriname, and everyone can come and put some ghee inside to the divine light that stays on. Also praying for a better Suriname. We call this the Suriname Diya. This is a festival during Diwali. Here I have a picture of the Lala Rook complex. On December 13, 1980, the opening of the General Community Center took place, which was later remained the Lala Rook Company. It was a gift to the Suriname community in honor of 100 years of Hindustani immigration, and is managed now by the National Foundation for Hindustani Immigration. In this, in one of these buildings, what I'm showing here, at the Lala Rook complex, there is a Lala Rook Museum, has opened on June 5th, 2013. It was in commemoration of the 143 years of Hindustani Aparvasi Divas. There is a museum inside of this building. A very good act of the board of Lala Rook is that they named their conference room after Hindustani immigrants, such as Gia and Budhia Party Terrace also. Like this terrace on my right side has got names from the people who came from India at that time. If we go further, then this is a monument of Jai Kisan. This is a picture of a statue of Jai Kisan, which is a tribute to small farmers and rice growers. So to the ancestors, the indentured laborers who had to work really hard on the plantations and also after their contract, worked really hard on a piece of a land and they got from the government. So they got a piece of a land where they also work. This statue called Jai Kisan. Kisan means agriculture, who is doing agriculture. This statue was revealed on June 2011 at the celebration of 138th commemoration of Hindustani immigration in Suriname. It is placed in the front of a Quata market where all ethnic group of Suriname buy and sell the vegetables, fruit, fish, so go on. It can be seen in a place everybody comes to. The Quarter Markt is one of the biggest markets in Suriname. This statue is mostly all. This statue and mostly all statues in Suriname is placed by Hindustanis and is placed by the organization called Foundation Hindustani Immigration. In Dutch we say Stichting Hindustaanse Immigratie. Just like the first statue of Baba Mai, this statue is also made by the late sculptor Mr. Krishna Prasad Kedu, who has made more than 165 statues. This is a second monument. This is placed in Saramaka, in Groningen, Saramaka. So we also have some of the statues. This is the first boat. The first boat, the Lalarook, which brought the first Hindustani indentured to Suriname. A very well-known one of these Lalarook boat is in Groningen, in the district Saramaka. The monument is renovated so that it can be better to use for the people. This project is done by SAI, Stichting Hindustaanse Immigratie, and this renovated monument will be revealed on coming June 2023, this coming next month. This is a second monument, a very important monument. This monument on the left side of me, it is called Jani Tetri. This is the only woman which is mentioned in the official records who has fought for the colonial officials and was shot dead. She is seen on a resistance fighter. She stood up for the rights of indentured men and women on plantation Zorg and Hope. Because of a decolonization movement to write our own story from our own perspective, a statue was erected of this brave woman. And the pose in the statue is a pose when she got shot. As this pose, she got shot when she was throwing a bottle to a soldier. And she was shot like a coward from the back. In the back, they have shot her dead. She has been murdered alongside with other men. The resistance took place in September 1884. In September 84, there was this resistance took place. A documentary about this protest has made in 2013 in commemoration of 150 years of Hindustani immigration. And in September 2017, a very young and active group of women in Netherlands made it possible that this beautiful and impressive monument of Jani Tetri was made and placed in Suriname, in the capital of Paramaribo, surrounding the Independence Square. In this place it is in the place for our over a century, where the statue of former Agent General Mr. Barnett Leon was placed. And as you can see on my right side, there is a picture of a monument of Barnett Leon. We have removed this statue and placed the statue of Jani Tetri there. At this moment, this monument is placed by the Cultural Union of Suriname. So our organization has put this this monument there, and it is in the left side of the Presidential Palace. A very popular statue that we have, that is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is internationally recognized as an icon of non-violent resistance to racism, discrimination, and colonization. Many human rights fighters fought and found their inspiration in Gandhi and his life mission. Statues of him can be found in many countries, and streets and squares are named after him, such as in countries where their former contract workers have been settled, like Suriname, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Mauritius, and Fiji. In these countries, he is not only regarded by many Hindustanis as inspiration, but also as a fighter against the system of contract labor. Besides his birthday on the 2nd of October, Gandhi is also commemorated on 5th June 5th in Suriname. In 1960, this bronze statue of Gandhi was unveiled in Paramaribo at the Vriendengracht. That is a place nearby the Heilige Weg. After this, I'm going to show a monument. This monument is now preparing. We are preparing this monument. It is because it's 150 years coming 5th of June. So the Hindustani immigration, Apravasi Divas, 150 Apravasi Divas we are going to celebrate. So this is a monument they are preparing to unveil on June 4th June 2023. The Baba Mai monument, this is in Saramaka. Also, the Cultural Union Suriname is preparing now also a monument that will be officially unveiled on 5th of June at the Independence Square, in the area there, in the Independence Square, where it will be unveiled by the President of Suriname. And we are getting, the President of India is coming also to Suriname on June 5th to celebrate 150 Apravasi Divas. Then it will be unveiled by those presidents on 5th June. We do these things and we plan activities so our next generations know about our culture and know from where we came and what our ancestors did to make life easier, the offspring. So we are doing this to leave something, a legacy to our children, grandchildren, everyone, to all of them, that they have something to talk about. So ladies and gentlemen, everyone, I want to thank you for this moment. Just what I had, just what I said in the beginning of my presentation. I cannot tell everything in short time, but I hope that I did my best and give you an overview of some of monuments and some historical sites in Suriname. I'm very thankful to Mr. Kumar and everyone who has asked me to do this today. So many thank you very much. Thank you.
Anil, no, we have to thank you. You've given extensive coverage to all the heritage sites that are dedicated to the memory of the Hindustanis in Suriname, and I really appreciate all that you've shared. I want to share with you, if you're not aware, and for the rest of you in the audience, we are hosting a tour to Suriname on August 9th to the 14th of this year. And Anil has presented several of the sites that we have already earmarked in our itinerary to visit. So I'm so pleased that he was able to highlight many of those in the background there. So for those of you who will be joining us, who have already registered, we already have so many people who booked their tickets and booked their hotel and so on. You've gotten good information about where you will be seeing.
Thank you.
So,
Can I have the date again? The date? Sure,
August 9th to the 14th.
Okay, thank you.
We also have in our audience two people who are helping us on the ground in Suriname, and that is Bhagwan Gangaram Pandey and Rajan Baldev, who are here with us.
Yes, thank you very much.
And now, before Anil goes, I just want to open the floor to those of you all who might have questions about his presentation. So if you would like to ask him a question or make a comment about the presentation, please just go to the reactions button, click on the raised hand icon, and I'll call upon you. Dr. Albert Williams from Belize. Excellent. Go ahead, please. Unmute.
He's on mute.
Albert, you're muted. Your mic is muted.
There you go.
All right.
An excellent presentation. Anil, I am so fascinated with what you had to say. I'm always, though, very conscious of the word and the use of the word coolie. So what's the take of that word in Suriname at this point in time? I know you had the coolie depot, and that's fine, but where are we today with that, the usage of that word?
The uses of that word, we all Hindustani, we are not so like to use that word anymore. We are using Hindustani because if you look, the meaning of Coolie gives a different meaning. That's why I just said about the Coolie Depot, because the place, till now we call it the Coolie Depot, where our ancestors came, but we are not used to using that word anymore so much in Suriname.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Great, thank you for that. Lenroy, welcome. You can go ahead and unmute. Lenroy? I wonder, Lenroy, can you hear us? Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I unmuted earlier, but I didn't want this song to come to while Dr. Albert Williams was talking. Yes, what I would like to find out, we in St. Vincent do not have a statue or a human profile as a monument. And I don't know if Dr. Anil can give us some ideas as to the cost and where we can get these things done, you know. The type of material, I noticed there were different types of material for those statues used in Suriname. So can you give us some insight into that? Cost and people who can do the work to erect them, to make these monuments, statues and people profiles, etc. Thanks. Thank you.
So I think you want to know what the cost is, and the cost I cannot tell because it's just other organizations who is doing that. What I can tell about the monument, what I'm going to start building tomorrow. I have 2 weeks to finish that monument. It's a monument that will show what I have. I've bought a big anchor, a big boat anchor from Belgium and shipped it to here. And with the anchor, I'm building a monument to show that we are stuck. We are anchored in Suriname. This is our country. We are stuck there. So that's what I'm going to build from tomorrow. And in the monument also, I'm going to show the way of the growth of our Hindustani and Suriname, where we started and how our growth is still now, 2023, till now, how the growth of our Suriname is, and what we are now expecting to go more further up, like Hindustani, Suriname, and Suriname Hindustani. And that monument, maybe it cost me like $6,000 US.
Wow.
Okay, so Lenroy says, thank you very much. He gives you a thumbs up. I suppose what we could do is try to find the organization, link up with the organization who is creating the new Bapan Mai.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then we will be able to probably pass that information on to Lenroy. So good question, Lenroy. Thank you. So let's welcome Mr. Ashok Ramsaran. He was here last week. He presented on the Kolkata Monument, which he was very instrumental in establishing. Ashok, unmute your mic, please.
Thank you, Shalima. I have a comment for Lenroy. We have been using laser cuts in Trinidad for monuments, and Shalima knows the contact information for them. In fact, we're using them, one for being done in Martinique and another one shortly for Grenada. But coming to Suriname, back in 2007, I took a delegation, I accompanied the Minister of Overseas and Indian Affairs to Suriname, and we went to a site where there is a monument for martyrs. I've posted that on the chat there, Mr. Anil. Can you take a look at that and identify the location? Because I don't remember exactly where it was, but we went to several places, and that is one of them where we laid some wreaths and flowers for martyrs. Thank you.
I think this monument is in Marienburg. It's in District Kommerwijnen. It is in Marienburg there.
Ashok, you're muted again. Unmute.
Yes, that is the name of the place. Now I recall it. Thank you.
All right.
And
You're
I was
welcome.
hoping that you would identify that for us and for the audience. Thanks.
Anil, you have anything on that at Marienburg?
No, thank you.
No? Okay, all right. Well, Ashif, thank you for pointing it out, though. Let's welcome Mr. Mohammed Keshavji, who is from, well, how should I introduce you? I don't know where in the world you are right now. I'll let you tell everyone yourself. Go ahead and unmute, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
We're hearing you now, yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're muted again. Mr. Keshavji, you're muted again.
Okay,
Right.
can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Shalima. I was born in South Africa, so I found what Mr. Anil is saying very interesting because we were also part of the Dutch colonialism. And then I lived in Kenya, so there was the British side. And now I live I'm a Canadian living in England. So you got two more dimensions there. But I just wanted to know from Mr. Anil just three small things to understand better your situation. Did the people from India come because of the sugar plantations? Was sugar the reason that brought them to Suriname? That's number one. Number two, from where in India did the majority of the Asian population come? Were they from Bengal, or were they from Madras, or were they from Gujarat, or were they from Bihar? And the last point is, what is the present Indian population in Suriname? And what percentage is it of the bigger population?
Thank you very much for the question, sir. The mostly people that came from India to Suriname, came from, the big part came from Bihar. They come from Bihar, and some of Calcutta came also here. But the ship was leaving from Calcutta. There, why I showed you a monument that they have built there also in India at Calcutta. And they called it also the Calcutta Depot. The population in Suriname, I think in precedence, we are surely like 40–50% we are Hindustani in Suriname.
Okay, well, what is the population? Is it like 1 million people? Is it 2 million? Is it?
No, the population here is around 600,000 to 700,000 people.
Oh, okay, you're less than 1 million people.
We don't reach 1 million yet.
Okay, that's very interesting. And what is the main language that the people speak? Do they speak Bhojpuri, or do they speak Hindi, or do they speak Urdu, or what?
The main language by the government is Hindi, is Dutch, sorry, Dutch. But we have also a street language called Srangatongo, where we talk, Srangatongo is a language that came from the street, you know, everybody is a mix of English and Dutch inside, Srangatongo. But we Hindu families, we know Hindustanis, all houses, at home, we speak Bhojpuri like that, Sarnami, we speak that Sarnami. And then other cultural ethnic groups, they have their own language. They have the Japanese, they have their Japanese language like that. The Chinese speak them. But by the government, we have to speak Dutch. But over the street, we have Srangatongo, and when we are with families, we speak Sarnami.
Thank you. That's so very valuable. And sugar was the main reason why they came.
Sugar was the main reason.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very well presented. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So let's move on now to our final question, and this is from Mr. Anirudh Singh. Unmute, please. Mr. Singh, can you unmute? Okay, you can go ahead and ask your question.
We can't hear him.
We can't hear him, yes. Mr. Singh, your mic is unmuted, but we are not hearing you. Can you try one more time? Okay, now you are muted. Unmute again. Okay, I believe Mr. Singh might be having internet connectivity issues because his video seems to be stuck as well. So perhaps he will type his question in the chat, and we will, Mr. Manurat will reply from there. Mr. Manurat, I want to thank you very much for a very, very good presentation and for all of your responses to members of our audience.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to move on now to our second speaker.
Can you hear me?
Oh, Mr. Singh? Go ahead, please. Yes, we'll take a few minutes.
The presentation by Anil was very interesting, but with can you hear me?
Go ahead.
But with respect, it's like many documentaries and so on, it is static. My question is there any intention of dramatizing the plight of indentured laborers? I asked this question because my great-grandfather arrived in South Africa in 1863. And I have researched this subject starting from the first slaves arriving at our Cape of Good Hope in 1650 around 1910. I have these on the
Okay, Mr. Singh, I'm so sorry, but we are not hearing you at all. You're coming across not very clearly, and I'm sorry, Mr. Manurat will not be able to take your question live. Why don't you type your question in the chat, and I'm sure he'll be happy to respond to you.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manurat. Thank you, Mr. Singh, as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker is Mr. Kiru Naidu of South Africa. He's a writer based in Durban with a keen interest in workers' histories and women's voices during indentureship. The Bangladesh market remains a centerpiece of his existence, and I'm sure he'll share more about that with us. So, Mr. Naidu, welcome. You can go ahead and present.
Vanakkam, namaskaram, namaste, assalamu alaikum, guten morgen, bonsoir, sanbonani nonke. I'm delighted to join you in this session, and let me greet the chairperson and moderator and the other panelists, and of course you distinguished ladies and gentlemen joining us online. When confronted with this topic, I was quite attracted to the prospect of taking you on a tour of different indenture-related sites and monuments around South Africa. And there's some of the images that I present here will give you some indication of that. Well, I'm just seeing a message on my screen here. But please pardon me, I'm not able to turn on the video. We have an erratic electricity supply here, so I'm literally in the dark and just working off my mobile phone. So please excuse me for that. Just maybe as a point of departure, to tell you that in South Africa, there is no officially sanctioned indenture site or indenture monument. Nothing that the government of the country has created or proposed or sanctioned that could reflect on this history. Where such sites or monuments exist, they emerge from civil society formations, groupings of religious organizations, academics, other kinds of activists that have put such structures together. Okay. With that said, and as I pointed out, I wanted to just talk you through some of the sites, but I also wanted to engage the subject of the utility or value of static monuments. And in this regard, I am sort of quite moved by the argument by the commentator Martin Gasforth in The Spectator, where he argued that public statues are intensely political. And in a country like South Africa, where we've been plagued by centuries of slavery, colonialism, indenture, land dispossession, apartheid, imperialism, and all of the different kinds of oppressions, these kinds of issues become hugely divisive. And I, for one, have been opposed to any kind of specific statue or monument that dwells narrowly on the experience of Indian indenture in South Africa, preferring instead to locate this history within the broader history of South Africa, especially the struggle for freedom and democracy in my country. Now, I know this is the 155th session of this, so I presume that many of you joining us will be aware that the first Indian indentured workers arrived in South Africa through the colony of Natal, the city in which I was born and where I live, in Durban, and entered through Durban Harbor. And between 1860 and 1911, we had a slew of indentured workers that were brought to the sugar plantations, the coal mines, the railways, domestic service, tea plantations, and others across the province and even further afield. So this is a very important part of the makeup of the broader labor force, as it were, in South Africa. And that history, that labor history, I suggest, is very important and ought to be recognized in some kind of structure or interactive monument, but not necessarily a statue or a public statue of any sort that is very narrowly focused. What then, or why then, is my opposition to any public statue? And in this regard, I've got to tell you that I form a very small minority in this view. I might even be a minority of one in this regard. But my line of thinking is that, you know, in a country that's been so fractured by race, class, ethnicity, even tribalism, we have to be very careful about the kinds of monuments we structure and the purpose behind it. And that thinking is also informed by the history of, you know, just across the planet of the last 30 years or so. For instance, when the Soviet Union collapsed and, you know, coming down of the Berlin Wall, we saw statues of Lenin and so on rolling in the streets. In the United States, the campaigns in New Orleans over the Robert E. Lee statue, the Confederate leader, and how that polarized that society. More recently, the Rhodes Must Fall campaign at Oriel College, Oxford, and the University of Cape Town that brought down those statues. And also something maybe closer to home for us is the huge debacles in various parts of the world, notably Ghana and in South Africa, over Gandhi statues. So where there is a public statue that focuses on something very narrow and very specific, and where you have a society in which there are tensions, the tendency is that when those tensions come to the fore in the society, all kinds of attention gets focused on those statues to the point that people want to destroy those. Okay? The second part of my line of argument of why I don't think these kinds of memorials have real utility is that in the history of people of Indian origin in South Africa, particularly people of indentured origins, there hasn't been instances where people put up statues to any particular individuals or to commemorate very specific events in history. Rather, the focus has been on creating structures that would be of benefit to society and to humanity. And I speak in this regard of clinics that were built, hospitals, schools, community halls, religious sites, and the like. So the memorial and the kind of continuity of history of the community of Indian origin and indentured origin, we find that expression in all of these kinds of structures, especially the schools. At a time when, during colonialism and apartheid, when schooling was denied to Black people generally, including people of Indian indentured origins, it fell to communities to gather and build those schools, sometimes in partnership with the state, contributing a rand for rand and building those schools, but at other times where well-heeled people in society came together and built those schools. So those schools and those clinics and those temples and mosques and so on are the enduring monuments that express our relationship with history. And I'm more attracted to that when we recognize indenture and the history of indentured workers in South Africa, that it should be facilities that have utility to the broader public. Now, I'm not, in stating that, I must acknowledge that there have been a whole variety of people who have gathered this history of people of Indian indentured origins and sort of presented that in a way that's of real value in the sense of creating memory against forgetting. And among those, I must recognize the 1860 Heritage Center in Durban, which is a facility of government, an agency of the Department of Arts and Culture. But it falls to volunteers in that center who have gathered the history right from the arrival of Indian indentured workers in the port of Durban, their documents, their circumstances, their diets, their employers, the kind of oppression they suffered on the plantations and in the mines and elsewhere. But they've also packaged that history and created a kind of interactive museum that shows the full spectrum all the way through to the struggle for South African freedom that involved all of the communities in the country, whatever their race or ethnic origins. The picture you see on the screen now is something that will be unveiled next week by the Indentured Laborers Foundation in Verulam, and I'm looking forward to seeing this because I think its artistic merit is tremendous. It's a bronze artwork that pays tribute to these workers. And it's not intended to be a kind of static statue from the motivations I've heard from them. But this is a small community within the sugar plantations of Natal, and they've worked tirelessly to gather the diversity of the experience of Indian indentured workers in that area. So, this is the fruit of their labors there, and I think that that's something quite profound. But here again, I think this engagement of what utility this has beyond just the artistic representation we see, and it's folks in that organization that have not only done remarkable work, but they've also been part of various public debates on subjects such as this through various conferences they've had. So none of these debates are fixed in time and space, and there's value to engaging with that. While I made reference at the outset to the first arrival of Indian indentured workers in 1860, the Indian presence in South Africa actually goes back well before then. And there was reference, I think, from Dr. Keshavji earlier about slaves that were brought to the Cape, what may have been somebody else, please pardon me, maybe Mr. Singh, slaves taken to the Cape by the Dutch in the 1600s. So you had slaves from Bengal, from the Coromandel coast, from the Malabar Hills, and so on. So that's one aspect that's rarely recorded in South African history. A fortnight ago, I was very pleased travel deep into the forest in the eastern part of the country, the northeastern part, a region called Mbombela in Mpumalanga province, where the historian Cyril Romnick found an ancient site of Shiva worship. And one of those pictures I hope we might be able to see. And he argues that, and this is from archaeological and anthropological evidence, that there was the Indian presence there going back some 1800 years ago, and that there were Indian gold miners who traveled to that area of Komati land. And things. So a fascinating aspect of that element of the history, and the remnants of all of that are to be found, sort of artifacts and so on, are to be found in various university collections, notably the University of Pretoria collection. Now, so this aspect here that we referred to as an older monument is something very significant. But more recently, there have been a variety of committees, usually temple and mosque and church committees and so on, which have created kind of memorials of different sorts. And what you see on your screen now is the building of the 1860 Heritage Center that I referred to earlier. And this is a remarkable site, and I do wish that it would get far more attention on the kind of heritage map and on the tourism map, because this is probably the only museum of its kind in the country that tells the totality of the South African experience in terms of the struggle for peace and democracy in our country. So in different parts then, I was wanting to refer here to also to different organizations like the Sri Mariamman Temple that's in Mount Edgecombe, that's deep in the heart of the sugar plantations in colonial Natal. And not only is the Sri Mariamman Temple a site of worship, worship for Amman, but they also created there a community hall that has become a liberated space for political parties to gather, for trade unionists, for student organizations. And I think that the kind of richness of the engagement in a space like that is a key contributor towards social cohesion, nation building, reconciliation. And that harks back to the history of our forebears, where people built halls and places of worship where people could gather, irrespective of their ethnic or race origins. Well, at the Sri Mariamman Temple, there's also a representation of Indian indentured workers, a man and a woman, very much similar to what's being done in Verulam, showing the experience of the cane fields. But that's not the focal point. The focal point is the engagement that site uses. The picture that you see up on your screen here, I'm just so pleased that we were able to find this. This is probably the only representation in some artistic form in the city of Durban that was the site of the first Indian indenture in the country. And this represents an Indian woman and man flower sellers that were very much part of the tourism map. And I'm sure that Dr. Betty Govenden, who joins us on the session regularly, will be pleased that this is one of our most outstanding writers, Aziz Hassam. And in his book, award-winning book, The Lotus People, he used that image on the cover. And it's a relief that was done in concrete by the artist Mary Steinbank. And it's the only representation of its sort that's in Durban. So overall, I think that we have a plethora of sites in different community settings. Probably the more dominant of the images are of Gandhi, and we have statues of Gandhi in places like Pietermaritzburg, at his ashram in Phoenix, just north of the city of Durban, cities like Waduguza, in Johannesburg and elsewhere. But Gandhi does not equate to indenture sites. Gandhi arrived in South Africa some 33 years after the first Indian indenture, and he was, a lawyer drafted in to assist a merchant Indian in a legal case. But in any event, in the latter parts of his political organization in South Africa, he was drawn into the struggles of indentured workers. And in particular, in the 1913 strike, a very significant aspect there is that he marched alongside the child martyr Valiamma. And another monument that we could speak of is her grave site was found by Dr. E.S. Reddy, the Indian national, was responsible for the Center Against Apartheid at the UN. And he, sort of organized people to put up a bust of Valiamma on that site, but regrettably, these were damaged by vandals, and I hope now that that bust has been secured in a place that might be safe from vandals. Just maybe to draw this to a conclusion, what would I like to see in this area of indenture sites and memorials and in the country? I would much rather we saw the history of Indian indenture in South Africa within the broader history, especially of working people of South Africa. And probably the closest we have to it is at Freedom Park in Pretoria, which is the administrative capital of the country. And at Freedom Park, it notes all of the names and events in the struggle against oppression, going back to the early years of the Dutch conquest of the Cape in 1552, right through to the wars of resistance by Amaxhosa, Amazulu, and all the different kingdoms that were subjugated by the British and earlier the Dutch. And very importantly, it lists the names of the freedom fighters. And in this regard, I'm pleased to see Mr. Nair is online there, and I'm more than certain his brother, Billy Nair, was in prison on Robben Island with Nelson Mandela and others. They have their details put up there. So that's a storytelling within the broader tableau of the struggle for South African freedom. And I would very much like to see that we locate this memorialization, this memory against forgetting, this relationship with history within that broader fabric, rather than seeing any particular specificity about the Indian experience in South Africa. Because as we become more and more fraught politically, and where we have all kinds of political adventurers and cockeyed nationalisms that want to further divide the country, that we can only find refuge in a common history rather than parceling ourselves out on the fringes as saying that there's something very specific about Indian indenture, when in fact the history of oppression just created just so much of havoc for so many communities, not just in Africa, but also those who came from elsewhere, the slaves from the East and indentured workers and others. I'm sort of doing this pretty much blind, moderator, so I pretty much am out of my time now. So let me maybe stop at that point, and I hope that there may be questions that will allow us to engage further. Thank you again for the invitation to join you.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing all that you have. It's a very interesting perspective that you brought there. And I want to welcome our audience to pose their questions and make their comments. So I have two people who've already raised their hands, and the rest of you, if you would like to ask a question or pose a comment, go ahead and raise your hand, please. Let me welcome Mr. Mohammed Keshavji.
Kiru, thank you so much. I think I owe you an apology because I had to get back to you. I myself, like you, are from South Africa, but I also lived in East Africa, and I lived there during the Ugandan expulsion. And I agree with you, Kiru, that we need to situate the contribution of the diasporic Indians in the context of we were brought there on the back of colonialism. So number one, we were brought on the back of colonialism. When we saw decolonization, we were seen as expendable. We were seen as the stepchildren of the colonial empire. You may see a bit of this happening in South Africa, and it may happen. And the point I wanted to put in context is that we need to do both. We need to create a consciousness, as you say, to ensure that we do not have memory being forgotten. But I think critically for all the Indians in all the former colonial settler communities, according to me, is we need to establish our narrative to say that we were not brought there to come and take your land away. We were brought on the back of colonialism. We then struggled. We contributed to those countries' upliftment. In the diaspora, we were not leeches. We were not people there out to hurt anybody. We ourselves got hurt in the process. And I do understand, and I fully agree with you, that statutory and statutes can create contested histories. But I think we need to look at a document, Kiru. I would suggest you, if you haven't seen it, it was done by the Salzburg Seminar under the guardianship of a very close friend of mine called Edward Mortimer, who was a press advisor to Kofi Annan. It's a brilliant document. I would suggest let's look at that document, all of us, later on, and see how can we place our narrative in such a context so that every time there is a problem in any of these countries, they don't say, you unwanted Indians, you people came here, you exploited us, you are bloodsuckers. Look at, you got more money than the indigenous people. I think we need to be strategic in how do we want to understand our history and not be divisive, but to show that our contribution was part of the struggle of that country to gain freedom. And therefore, we have a right to ask for a pluralistic world. We have a right to be asked to be respected and not be constantly told that you came on the back of the colonial power and now you should go back to India because we didn't want you here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshavji. Let's have a response from Mr. Naidu, please.
Yes, thank you, Shalima. I think that's a valuable input from Dr. Keshavji, and I look forward to the document on the Salzburg seminar. And we must accept that these are all contested narratives. And even from among people of Indian origin, there is no homogeneous line of thought on these subjects. And I think that's healthy enough. But I think it's valuable that we have these debates. And I, for one, have an open mind about it. And I certainly will follow up on the suggestion of looking up that document. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's have a quick question or comment from Mr. Nair. Go ahead, please, sir.
Hi, Kiru. This is Jay from Canada. Well done information and input as to what the Indian South Africans are involved with or were involved with. And I know your angle is to show what we produced to show our culture into the South African context. I know we were brought in, I'm second generation indentured laborer. My father came in as a worker on the railways and he moved on to the ocean steamers. And Billy found that out and I found further information. You are right in saying that we didn't want monuments of human beings, but we built monuments of our religious backgrounds. That's in our temples. And we wanted education. So we got together and built schools. We had the government aided schools under the colonial system and under the British and then the Dutch. Well, you know what the Indian Council was, and I don't want to go into that aspect of what happened. And you can say that, like my grandfather came in as a passenger Indian, and he built 8 temples. So I am proud to say that I am part of a family that produced stuff for the people to use in their daily worship. And that is how you find our culture or our upbringing from India. We brought it with us to a colony. Now, the fight for freedom, the fight for getting rid of apartheid and all that, that is part of the process where when we became thinkers and we became individuals to question the establishment, then we fought back and we found a way of enjoying it. And then Mahatma Gandhi comes into the picture also. Although he came in as a lawyer to represent a business firm, he turned out to be a freedom fighter and he went back and really what you call one freedom for the Indians in India. But our Port Natal was the breeding ground for his Satyagraha and his Ahimsa movement. And therefore, we were all part of it. So that is what we gave to the world. And today, Gandhi, Mandela, and Dr. King are all emulated by people for peace and nonviolence. But nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to listen to one another. And that is why you have the Ukraine situation. So having said that, I agree fully with what your thought process is. We have to present our achievement as, although we were denied so many privileges, but we still built our temples, built our schools, built our mosques, and got to the people and brought the people as a community.
Excellent,
Well
Jay.
done,
Thank you
Siri.
so
Thanks
much.
for the-
Thank you. Mr. Naidu, would you like to respond?
Yes, I acknowledge all of those points, and lovely to see you, Mr. Jay Nair. I should tell you that this morning I drove past Paisley Avenue in Sydenham, which would be, I mean,
Oh my, right at
you
the
might have been
corner.
born in. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
that's where I was born.
Yes, I would very much like to see a plaque outside that building that talks about a freedom fighter that was born in that building and who spent 20 years on Robben Island, and where I could tell my grandchildren that, you know, the story of Indian indentured workers who arrived in this country, they spawned somebody like this. And
Right.
so those kinds of things I think are more valuable than putting up, for instance, what's now mooted by the provincial government in KwaZulu-Natal as a monument on the Durban beachfront to celebrate the Indian indenture. And I fear that when we have racial conflict, as so often rears its ugly head in South Africa, that somebody would go down there and burn that down.
Burn that down. Right.
Yeah. So that's my fear. I'm sure we'll pick up this discussion later. Thank you very much for that input.
Yes, very good. Thank you so much. A final question for Mr. Naidu from Ronaldo Katwaru. Ronaldo, you're muted.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So, you know, I thought Mr. Naidu's presentation was very insightful. He raised a lot of great points, and drawing back to what Mr. Mohammed had to talk about with secularization and being pitted against each other when it comes to race, especially when you talk about historical events. A lot of people tend to idolize monuments over the significance of what the monument would mean. So it's really interesting to see that the great divide between races is who may have suffered first, which ethnic background suffered the most damage from colonialism. And it's an interesting perspective because oftentimes we get carried away with that discussion of who worked harder, and we don't think about who had pitted us against each other in the first place. So Trinidadian history in particular, because going into indentureship and slavery as a whole, as it relates to the Caribbean or any other part of the world, is a touchy subject because everybody else has their unique story, their unique perspective. Everyone had suffered differently, had different experiences. But when it comes to Trinidad, one thing that's always been something that stood out to me was that whole local white debacle. So after slavery, you know, we would say that indentureship was an answer to slavery. So that's what came after. We had similar experiences because the system that was crafted, you know, it was the whites above the slaves in that essence. Indentureship was, yeah.
Ronaldo, do you have a question for Mr. Naidu?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Sorry.
Yeah, let's get to that, please.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank
so
you.
my question is now, because we're talking a lot about static, what's your perspective on this newer generation and cultural erasure? They're not having that much to relate to, that they rely on that static. What do you think that like education systems and those institutions can do about that to like educate the younger generation now getting into these issues?
Thank you. Mr. Naidu?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Katuaru. I'm just marveling at the various points you made there. And yes, I think you pose an important question. I don't think I have an answer to it. Suffice to say that we ought to be thinking far more creatively about how we conceptualize this memory against forgetting, and especially how we can draw in younger people to appreciate this history and heritage of struggle and sacrifice. So I think that, I would rather throw the question back at you as being of a younger generation, of the kinds of messaging that you would like to see that gives you a pride in your own existence and the contributions of your forebears, whether in the West Indies or anywhere else, because the colonial and imperial and apartheid project was about divide and rule, and it's kept us apart, whatever our ethnic or race origin. So I think those are very important points to make, and I'd like you to think through that and make us some recommendations of how we could reach younger people with this storyline. Thank you, Shalima.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you so much for your comment, and Ronaldo, and for your response, Mr. Naidu. Very interesting perspectives here, and I'm sure we'll be discussing that further in a few topics to come. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we just want to break the conversation a little bit, and we want to highlight a particular song which observes Indian History and Heritage Month. So this Batohiya Traveler song was written by Babu Raghubir Narayan in 1911 during indentureship. Raghubir was born in Saran in Bihar, from where Dr. Mahavir's Nana, his paternal grandfather, came to Trinidad. So let's just take a few minutes. Robin, can you bring this, please?
भारत के देशवासी भारत के देशवासी सुंदर सुभूमि भैया भारत के देशवासी मोरे प्राण बसे हिम खोहरे बटोहिया मोरे प्राण बसे हिम खोहरे बटोहिया सुंदर सुभूमि भैया भारत के देशवासी मोरे प्राण बसे हिम खोहरे बटोहिया मोरे प्राण बसे हिम खोहरे बटोहिया एक द्वार घेरे रामा हिम कोतवाल वासी एक द्वार घेरे रामा एक द्वार घेरे रामा हिम कोतवाल वासे तीन द्वार सिंधु गहरावे रे बटोहिया तीन द्वार सिंधु गहरावे रे बटोहिया जाहु जाहु भैया रे बटोही हिंद देखी आऊ जाहु जाहु भैया रे जाहु जाहु भैया रे बटोही हिंद देखी आऊ जहाँ सुख झूले धान खेत रे बटोहिया जहाँ सुख झूले धान खेत रे बटोहिया सुंदर सुभूमि भैया भारत के देशवासी मोरे प्राण बसे हिम खोरे बटोहिया
Your sun's rays are runways for the Afrikaans poetry on my tongue, rhythm and drum play. the chants and the dance ways as I sway. I will thank you someday. Sita ke vimal jasu, Ram jasu, Krishna jasu. Sita ke vimal jasu. Sita ke vimal jasu, Ram jasu, Krishna jasu.
मोरे बाप दादा के कहानी रे बतोइया
मोरे बाप दादा की कहानी रे बटोहिया. Come all the way in the humblest of ways. When you come as a slave to the land of the brave, come with your wondrous ways. And then when we lay eyes on your ways and the ones that you pay eyes. Say indeed, we give you the thanks and the praise. Pavana Sugandha Manda
अमरा गगना वासे पावना सुगंध मंद
Pavana Sugandha Manda Amara Gaganavase.
कामिनी बिरह राग गावे रे बटोहिया
Kamini Nidaraga Gavere Batohiya. Sundara Subhumi Bhaiya Bharata ke desvase. More pran base him ko hare batohiya. More pran base him ko hare batohiya.
हो रे बटोहिया
हो रे बटोहिया.
हो रे बटोहिया.
We hope you all enjoyed that very meaningful selection. It's the first Bhojpuri song which features 11 singers from 7 different countries, including India. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to move on now to our third speaker, and this is Shadel Nayak Compton from Grenada. She's an attorney at law, the president of the Indo-Grenadian Heritage Foundation, the first honorary consul of India to Grenada, and the managing director of Belmont Cocoa and Nutmeg Estate. Unfortunately, Shadel will not be live with us because they have a very important event taking place at the estate today. And so she has pre-recorded her presentation, which Robin will now share with you. Robin?
Good day and greetings from Grenada, the Spice Isle of the Caribbean. Thank you to the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center for the invitation to present today. I am very delighted. My name is Shadel Nayak Compton, and I'm a farmer and an entrepreneur from Belmont Estate in the rural north of Grenada. So Belmont Estate is actually a historic plantation in Grenada that dates back to the 1600s. And is very significant in Indo-Grenadian history as it's one of the first holding estates of indentured Indians in Grenada. In addition, over the years, there have been several Indians who have worked on the estate as indentured workers, and also because later, my grandparents were the first Grenadians of Indian descent to own estates in a significant way in Grenada, and Belmont Estate was the second estate that they purchased. So I'm really grateful that this business has given me the opportunity to showcase Indian heritage and culture, to learn more about our history, and also to tell our stories. Also, in my role as Honorary Consul for India to Grenada, it's my objective to help to facilitate stronger bonds between our countries and between our diaspora people. So again, thank you. Grenada is known as a beautiful tourism destination, and it's known, of course, for its beaches, beautiful scenery, waterfalls, spices, cocoa, and chocolate. But we're also known for our cultural expressions and events and our heritage foods. We're really happy that Indian food features very prominently in our authentic Grenadian cuisine. It's very typical to enjoy roti and curried meats and vegetables in our homes, and even in our national dish, oiled down. Turmeric, ginger, and coconut milk are some of the main ingredients that flavor this mouth-watering stew. Another very present reminder of our Indian heritage is the ubiquitous use of the Madras fabric in our island. And here on the slide, you can see me with one of our national dance instructors wearing Madras during our chocolate festival last week. After the abolition of slavery in 1834, former enslaved Africans moved away from the plantations, and so plantation owners were forced to find an alternative source of labor so that their once prosperous estates would not become bankrupt. One of these sources was the indentured scheme using workers from India. So the system was set up mainly to provide labor for the overall economic development of plantations and also to try to salvage the island as a sugar producer. As we know, the first group of East Indians arrived on the Maidstone ship, and that landed in Irvines Bay in St. Patrick, the north of the island, on May 1st, 1857. It was estimated that 268 males and 68 females boarded the ship, and of that number, approximately 24% of them died in transit. Upon reaching Grenada, it's believed that the survivors were first taken to Belmont Estate as a holding area, and then they were distributed to about 15 plantations in Grenada. It was estimated that approximately 3,205 East Indians arrived in Grenada over a 28-year period from 1857 to 1885, coming mainly from the cities of Calcutta and Madras. The journey took about 89 days at sea. In 2009, Lacroix Brothers Funeral Home donated a commemorative marble plaque that was erected on private property on the site. In 2012, the road leading to the site was renamed Maidstone Road. We were very honored to receive Minister Patel, India's Minister of State for Health, in 2018 when she visited Grenada and visited the site, as you can see in the picture here. Irvines Bay is one of the most important historical sites that we have in Grenada that is linked with our Indian heritage. We recognize the need for making this important site into a suitable and official way to provide our communities, visitors, and students with a cultural park, not only for historical and educational purposes, but also for cultural and social events, and as a tourism attraction to be enjoyed by all. It is truly a very beautiful beach that offers a great view of the islands of the Grenadines to the north, and it's a site that all visitors enjoy because of its tranquility and its beauty. So we are really blessed. The photo you're seeing here was of a visit of His Excellency High Commissioner Mr. Arun Kumar Sahu, the High Commissioner of India to Trinidad and Tobago and to Grenada, who visited with our parliamentary representative, Mrs. Pamela Moses, and their staff. So we believe that this cultural park will really improve our communities, and visitors will have a better understanding of Indian history and suitably acknowledge and commemorate the contribution that brave Indians made to our beautiful island. Along with its historical and cultural value, it will offer a beautiful environment for family gatherings and activities, as well as providing a suitable place for youth and social activities and education. So we are working with the governments of India and Grenada to make this project a reality soon. Belmont Estate has a long history of Indian influence, and it was the first plantation to be owned by descendants of Indians who arrived in Grenada during indentureship. During this period of indentureship, Belmont Estate was the main holding area for Indians that arrived in the north before they were distributed to other plantations. There was in fact a field on the estate called Lobital, the hospital, and that was believed to be the hospital for the indentured Indian servants. And this is currently being researched by the University of Edinburgh in Scotland in collaboration with Belmont Estate. This is a map of Grenada, and you can see Belmont Estate highlighted in red on the northeast side of the island. The other circles, white circles on the map, indicate other plantations. There were over 200 plantations on Grenada during the 17 to 1800s. So just a bit more about Belmont Estate as an important Indo-Grenadian heritage site. It was really exciting to learn that there was actually a hospital or a clinic for the indentured workers at Belmont Estate. And what we've also learned is that other workers from other estates were brought here for medical attention as well. So we're hoping that soon we can publish our findings from the University of Edinburgh on this topic as well. So going back into history a bit, the estate was owned first by French, then by successive Scottish families, and eventually by an English family. And we still have some graves on the property of a former owner and manager. So my grandparents, Lyris and Norbert Nyack, they were of Indo-Grenadian descent, and they were the first Grenadians to own estates on such a large scale. And in these pictures here, we see pictures of them, including the picture in the middle that shows them with their horses, because they were horse lovers, and in fact even owned a horse race track here on the island in Telescope. They were known to race throughout the islands in Barbados, Trinidad, and in Guyana as well. So they started off with a very simple little shop and worked very hard. And over the years, they were able to build their business and get into the business of plantations. And they owned 6 plantations. They became very socially vibrant, and they were known for their strong social and civic consciences. They were philanthropists. They gave a lot of their time and their energy to helping others, and gave benevolently to persons in need and to charities, churches, and hospitals. Mr. Nyack himself became involved in government as a senator, and after he died, his wife continued with the operations of the business until her death. And after she passed, I took over with the management of Belmont Estate. After my grandmother died in 2001, it became my mission to try to revive Belmont Estate from its deteriorating state. And so I decided to diversify into agritourism. Growing up at Belmont Estate, I knew how much the estate meant to my grandparents. And so it was really pivotal for me to honor their legacy and to give it a fresh start, to offer employment and to contribute to the economy of Grenada, especially in the rural part of the island. So we first opened our doors to tourists in 2002, and this business has since then grown into an award-winning business in many areas. We presently offer a restaurant, many kinds of tours, cultural and educational activities, a goat dairy producing fine quality goat's cheese. We have a small factory that makes many value-added products, including spices, pickles, jams, jellies, and an award-winning chocolate factory that produces organic and kosher certified craft chocolate. The new business model has allowed us to maximize every aspect of the estate with the preservation of Indian heritage as one of the objectives of the business. So we offer several experiences and products that are influenced by our Indian heritage. So for instance, we do chocolates with spices. We have done a chai chocolate. We do several Indian pickles and chutneys, and of course spices. Our restaurant dishes are heavily Indian influence. And we're just very happy to offer this as a part of our story. One of the main activities that we host at Belmont Estate every year is the annual celebration of Indian Arrival Day on May 1st. And this year was no exception. Here is a slide of some of the entertainment that was offered this year on the 166th anniversary of Indian arrivals. Here are some slides of former celebrations of Indian Arrival Day at Belmont Estate. In 2013, the government of India gifted a bust of Mahatma Gandhi to Grenada. The bust was erected at MacDonald College in St. Patrick on a site overlooking Satyrs and Irving's Bay. The Gandhi bus is particularly fitting for this location because this high school was funded by the efforts of the Grenada East Indian Cultural Association that raised funds with the assistance of the Church of Scotland in Grenada. This school has played a very important role in the education of Indo-Grenadians in the north. The parishes of St. Patrick, St. Mark, and St. John are historic areas of Indian settlement. Little tangible evidence remain apart from our people, traditions, and oral history. In this slide, you can see the Samaritan Great House and the Samaritan Presbyterian Church, which are important historical monuments with Indian influence. Also pictured here is a recent landmark building, a community and sports center, and emergency shelter that was donated by the government of India to the people of St. Mark, Grenada. And this was officially opened in 2021. Grenada is at a very interesting point because we are continuing to research our history so that we can better document our Indian heritage. We're really pleased that our knowledge of Indian heritage is being strengthened by what we learn and also by the recent migrations of Indo-Caribbean and Indian Diaspora people who further contribute to our story and to our sense of Indian identity. We thank you all for listening, and we look forward to further collaborations in the future. Good day and greetings from Grenada, the Spice Isle of the Caribbean. Thank you to the Indo-Caribbean Cultural.
All right, so we had a great presentation there from Shadell. Unfortunately, she's not here to answer questions, but Dr. Mahavir has just put up her email address in the chat. So if you all have any questions or comments that you'd like to make, even if it is that you want to find out about Belmont Estate, which we've had the privilege to visit, it's a lovely place and her chocolates are really very tasty. So I want to suggest that you all do indeed connect with her and you can get more information. So there we had a heritage site that is being put to productive use. At this point in time, I want to move on to our fourth and final speaker. So this presentation is from St. Vincent. We have Mr. Junior Bacchus, who is the president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Indian Heritage Foundation. He's a former honorary consul of India and a United Nations expert on participation and development. He is currently en route to another location and has also sent a pre-recording of his presentation that Robin will share with us right now. Fortunately for us, we have Mr. Arnold Thomas and Mr. Lenroy Thomas with us, so I'm sure they are more than capable of taking any questions.
Day to all our viewers of this special, very important program. I must thank Dr. Mahabir for inviting me to share with you this Sunday evening or morning, depending on where you are in the world. I want to thank him for this opportunity to just share a bit with you about the experience since we started the commemoration of Indian Arrivals Day here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I must apologize that unfortunately I'm presenting this as a recording since I have very short time because of my travels. I am unable to do this live where I could share with you a PowerPoint presentation. So it's just a basic conversation, and I will try to limit it to under 10 minutes so that you don't get too bored just focusing on my speech per se. So today I'm speaking from the country of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have not such a big population of Indians. But let me just take a little step back before I share with you our reenactment experience as we commemorate Indian Arrivals Day. And following the abolition of slavery in the Caribbean and the Americas, we had a situation where there is a growing demand for foreign workers to continue to work on the estates, since the newly freed slaves were not so happy to continue to work on those plantations. So what happened between 1845 and 1864, the estate owners petitioned the British government to get some additional workers, and they went to Asia and Eastern Europe to see if they could find workers. With India under the colonial control of Britain, they went to India and began to find Indians to come to the Caribbean. In 1861, the first ship came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Travancore. It came here with 258 Indians leaving India, but arriving in St. Vincent on the 1st of June, 1861, with 260 Indians. You may ask yourself why it left with 258 and arrived with 260. What happened was that two pregnant ladies, Indians, gave birth while they were on the Travancore en route to St. Vincent. So we had the first ship of 260 Indians arriving here on the 1st of June in the area of Edinburgh. For those who are following and you know St. Vincent, it's in the southwestern coast. And so that those Indians, when they arrived, were dispersed on the estates across the island. But the whole process of indentureship continued, where there was up to a total of 8 ships that left India and brought a total of 2,474 Indians to St. Vincent between the period of 1861 and 1880. 1880 was the last ship, the Lightning, and following that, there was no more Indians coming under that indenture program. So let me jump from that to the question of the Indian Heritage Foundation. We in St. Vincent and the Grenadines got started, well, we started the Indian Heritage Foundation in 2006, when a group of us gathered on the 20th of July at a hotel, the Petani Resort in Argyle. That hotel no longer exists. In fact, that location now is where we have the Argyle International Airport. So we are gathered in Argyle and formed the association, got the first executive elected on the 20th of July, 2006. So between 2006 and 2007, we began our work and was able to convince the government to take a bill to Parliament to recognize June 1st as Indian Arrival Day and October 7th as Indian Heritage Day. October 7th became relevant because that's the time when 50 Indians marched from the Argyle estate into Kingston and was locked up or was challenged by the system, the administration. And so they protested the treatment they were getting on the estate. So that famous Argyle 50, where they had that march, that took place on October 7th in that year. I think that the year was 1882 when that march took place. So let me go and focus now on June 1st. June 1st, Indian Arrivals Day. So when the foundation got started, we got the government to go to Parliament, pass the bill. That bill was passed on the 26th of March, 2007. We then began in June of that same year, the commemoration or the reenactment of the arrival of Indians. So what we did was to get some persons dressed in Indian wear. We journeyed to a location where we take a ship or a boat and we sail from that location and come into what is now known as the Indian Bay area. So we reenact the arrival of Indians very early in the morning on the 1st of June and arrive at Indian Bay, where we were able to meet somebody who performed the role symbolically as a register, who will register the Indians who arrive. We were given names. We normally use a record from the archives where we get the names of Indians who arrive in that first voyage, and we basically portray the process that took place during the actual arrival of Indians. So we do that on the beach at Indian Bay. We normally have the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition, other government officials, and so for about 15 years now, we have been undertaking that reenactment exercise. There is normally cultural activities, dance. We also share during that morning Indian food. So there is food, song, and dance, along with some remarks. We get persons coming in from different parts of the world who are part of the celebration. We normally get Indians from Trinidad and Tobago. We get from Suriname. Indians from India actually came and performed as well. So the reenactment is a very important part of our recovery, for us to recover our heritage. So that activity this year will be taking place not on the 1st of June, because it's a very busy work day, and for the last 2 years we didn't have that activity since we had the problem with COVID. This year we are going to have it on the Sunday morning, Sunday the 4th of June. We will be hosting a reenactment exercise at Indian Bay, and all the Indians we expect across the world can send us messages. You can address your messages to me. You can get Dr. Mohabir to share my email contact or my WhatsApp contact, and you can send your greetings, send your messages, which we will read on the 4th of June at the reenactment exercise that will be taking place at Indian Bay. So I hope I will be able to get some pictures to share with you. In fact, one of our reenactment exercises was covered directly in India and made one of the magazines carrying photographs of the exercise. So we normally come from the ship dressed in Indian wear on the beach. We go to a person who is documenting the arrival, and then we all sit and gather and have some speeches, songs, and dance, and then we partake in an Indian type breakfast on that Sunday morning. So I'm looking forward to many of you participating. We will try to have it also virtual, so those of you from around the world, you will be able to see it virtual. I will share the contact information with Dr. Mohabir, so you can send it around to all those of you who are following this presentation. So I'm looking forward. I'm sorry you are unable to get pictures at this stage, but you can join us on the 4th of June when we will send you the link so you can see live what is happening at Indian Bay, and you can join us and celebrate the arrival. This is the 162nd year since the Indians came to this country. So I look forward to seeing you and hearing from you during that time. I thank you. All the best as the program continues.
So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Junior Bacchus, representing the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it's one of the reasons why we have this program entitled Historical Indentureship Sites and Monuments. Although there is no monument there, there is that very important reenactment at their indentureship site. And at this point in time, I want to say thank you so much to all of you all from St. Vincent. Despite there being such a small percentage of the population of Indians and people of Indian descent, it is a remarkable effort every year to go ahead and to do that reenactment. It is very difficult to pull that off, I'm sure, and yet it is done. So hats off to you all. If anyone would like to ask a question, or if you have any comments to make, I want to invite you to please raise your hand. And at this point, I want to invite Dr. Arnold Thomas to please unmute his mic. And Arnold, please, if you would like to add anything to what Junior has said, you're free to do so. Robin, can you, okay. Dr. Thomas, you're unmuted.
Hi, Salima. It's great to be in the program again. Just to underline what Junior just said, and I just want to add one comment. We in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as we like to call ourselves these days, we have a very unique history, both in terms of the ending of slavery, let me just repeat that. Unique history in terms of the beginning of slavery and also the ending of indentureship. We are a country that started slavery. We were the last country to start slavery, and we were the first country to end Indian indentureship. Junior made reference to the march in Kingstown, and we shall have a lot more to say about that. But I think today's topic is about monuments, and what we would like to see is that, let me just say that each country has its own experience of indentureship. And when we talk about building documents, we cannot visualize, we cannot think of having one set of documents that could apply to all the countries that experience indentureship. So my point is this: we have to look at each country, and St. Vincent is very, very unique because we were the first to end indentureship. There was a march in Kingstown, which was unique again in the history of indentureship. And all of these things you have to keep in mind when we come up to talk about heritage site or monuments. You know, I'm willing to answer any question if anyone has anything to ask. Muted, Shalima.
But thank you so much, Dr. Thomas. I'm not seeing any raised hands at this point in time, so I don't believe we have anyone with questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. David Subran. Dr. Subran, unmute, please.
Yes. I think in Trinidad and Tobago, we need to take steps to restore one of the sugarcane barracks. Most of them have totally disappeared. I recently saw barracks, original barracks, in the San Juan estate in Vancouver. As a matter of fact, descendants were still living there at the time I was there. But the sugarcane barracks is sort of unique. And to my observation, it was the worst designed, the most primitive. And we could kind of, if we cannot restore, we could rebuild some kind of facsimile of what existed at the time, because it was a huge part of the suffering. Generally, they came and they were placed in these barracks. And as soon as they could catch themselves, they moved into, on their own will, they moved into ajupas. And then later on, they progressed to wooden houses and so on. So it is my suggestion that some effort be placed towards this. Thank you.
Okay, your point is taken, Dr. Subran. I think a lot of discussion will have to go into that because if we want to rebuild a barrack, it takes a lot of land. It's going to take a lot of material. What will come of the building? So some discussion will have to go into that, and probably you can flesh out the proposal a little bit and let's see where we can go with it. But I certainly do take your point, and I know the barracks is very important to you. So thank you very much. Let's bring on now Mrs. Kamala Tiwari. Mrs. Tiwari, go ahead and unmute your mic, please. Mrs. Tiwari, you need to unmute your mic. Okay, there we go. We can hear you if you speak. Okay.
I'm okay now?
You're okay now, yes.
Right. I would like, in this Heritage Month that we're celebrating, well, at least in Trinidad, if not the other countries regionally, my pranam to all those people who have worked and toiled and brought us this far. But I want to start with Dr. Mahabir and you, Shalima, who have really shared so much valuable information about what is happening in the diaspora. From the Hindu Women's Organization, very, very small contribution. In 2022, we installed a monument of Sugri, one of the latest surviving indentures, a woman, because our group is focused on women and girls. And we got permission after seeking several spaces in the country that we thought were appropriate, including the Heritage Museum in County Limited. Well, I mean, I don't know what they're called now. We did not get permission. Apparently it's defunct, it's not attended to. After all the work that Professor Bernstein Samuel did for many years and much investment, the site, the heritage site that he wanted to create went defunct. So now I'm saying that our little, very, very minute contribution for what I'm hearing the other groups internationally are doing, we just installed in 2022 a monument to Sugri at the entrance of the Diwali Nagar site, when they were willing to accept our request to get this monument installed in a site where well, we thought it was public, but it does get active around Diwali time, and they're promoting other events during the year now.
Mrs. Tiwari, you're muted.
Who toiled in the sugarcane fields, who did everything from barracks to family to cutting cane early in the morning to developing families by investing in the sugarcane industry. And I just wanted to highlight that that is our very small contribution. And we are happy, and of course, as time permits and as funds permit, we hope to do a little more to contribute to this part of our history that is so crucial to document and to let the younger generation know that these were the things that happened in that time. Thank you, Shalima, for allowing me a few minutes, and good luck. Bye.
Before you go, Mrs. Tiwari, can you please just share with the audience what was so important about this woman, Sugri?
Okay, so she was the latest survivors. I mean, there might have been 2 or 3 around her time. And growing up with her and looking at her lifestyle and what she had achieved by the last child that she had, who became a medical doctor. By dint of her hard work, roti and saijan, roti and plantain, whatever she grew in her garden. And we lived opposite her, and she stood out for me as somebody who really, I mean, even after indentureship, continued that life of indenture by being part of the community in the way she did. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much for sharing that. And I just want to say, we had Mr. Lenroy Thomas, who was very interested in finding out how to set up a monument, probably in the form of a statue, somewhere in St. Vincent, and he was inquiring earlier as to how to go about doing that, material, cost, etc. So if you don't mind, is it okay if we share your contact information with him so that St. Vincent can benefit in that way?
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So, okay, I think she would have said yes. So thank you very much for that. And ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful program. I want to say thank you so very much to all of our presenters for utilizing their time, for sacrificing and for pulling together really, really great presentations that were so rich in detail and information. This meeting is being recorded live. It will be uploaded later. on YouTube permanently for posterity. And so for those of you who want to look at it again, it will be available to you. It is also being live streamed on the YouTube channel of the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center. And I just want to say hi to everybody on the live stream. At this point in time, I want to say thanks to all of you who presented, and for those of you who participated by way of questions and comments, and for all of you for being here. Thank you very much. Evelyn will now formally close the program. Evelyn, over to you.
Thank you, Shalama.
You're welcome.
Before we begin, remember that we're still looking for more Indian elders over 80 years old to interview live next month for part 10 of this series. We're asking their children and grandchildren to help us in this oral history project. Thank you all for taking time to participate. Thanks especially to the speakers. As I've said before, this public meeting is being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center and the Amina Ghafoor Institute for the Study of Indentureship and its Legacies, led by Professor David Dabadine. Today's edition of our program is being supported by the Sport and Culture Fund of the Office of the Prime Minister of the Government of Trinidad and Tobago. Please feel free to contact ICC to publish your books and reports. Remember, we're asking you to kindly give us suggestions as well as donations. Please contact Dr. Mahabir for details. Thanks to the advisory and planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir. Thanks to our IT manager behind the scene, Ravin Ramsingh, who has been recording the program and will edit and upload it to our website and YouTube permanently for posterity. Our next topic next Sunday will be part 5. How do you find your ancestral family in India? Please visit our YouTube channel to see all our past recordings. I am Evelyn Sampath Nath of Trinidad and Tobago and the United States, saying goodbye. May God bless you all. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody for being here, staying and joining. If anybody, Tom, Arnold, thank you very much. And all those people from St. Vincent who came out to hear Junior and support him. And also those from South Africa. Now we know we would have had a lot more people from South Africa, but they have almost a daily